What do you mean we're losing money on kiosks that sell out every week? Jeremiah Grant stood in the middle of his office, holding a printed profit report, his jaw tight. The numbers didn't make sense. 13 mall kiosks across 3 states, all inherited from his father's retail business. Most sold accessories, phone cases, watches, sunglasses, high-margin stuff. Inventory moved fast. Yet 3 locations were underperforming, one of them bleeding money every quarter. I've asked for detailed reports 3 times, he said to his assistant, eyes still on the paper. All I get is fluff. I know, she said. District says it's seasonal dips again. Jeremiah dropped into his chair. Seasonal dips don't last 18 months. He wanted to believe it was just poor staffing or layout issues. But something didn't add up. He hadn't personally visited any of the kiosks since taking over the company 2 years ago. His father used to show up unannounced, boots on the ground, sleeves rolled up. Jeremiah had been stuck in boardrooms. That's when he made the decision. I'm heading to the Oak Pine Mall kiosk tomorrow, he said. As a trainee. His assistant blinked. Undercover. Jeremiah nodded. I need to see what's really going on. The next morning, Jeremiah stood in front of the kiosk wearing a simple gray hoodie, faded jeans, and a ball cap pulled low. His beard had grown in over the last few weeks enough to change his look. No Rolex, no designer shoes. No one here had ever met him. The kiosk team rotated so often, most didn't even know what the CEO looked like. He'd applied using a fake name Jacob, and the kiosk manager had been thrilled to get an extra pair of hands for the weekend rush. Staff shortages had been an issue lately due to 2 workers quitting without notice. The manager mentioned it in passing during a phone interview. By noon, he was behind the glass counter, pretending to learn how to scan barcodes and restock sunglasses. The manager on duty was a tall guy in his late 20s named Trent. Confident, loud, and constantly checking his phone. Just keep the cases neat, Trent told him. And don't offer deals unless I say so. We're not running a charity. Jeremiah nodded, observing quietly. The kiosk had a decent flow of customers, but something felt off. The energy was tense. Trent barely looked at people. He rushed them, rolled his eyes, even laughed behind their backs. At one point, a young woman came by with her son, probably 4 or 5 years old. The kid was crying, tugging at her jacket while she tried to look at phone cases. Trent sighed loud enough for half the food court to hear. Ugh, here we go. The woman looked up, startled. Sorry, he's just tired. Trent cut her off, fake smiling. Maybe try the playground next time instead of a shopping trip? The woman's face flushed. The boy kept whimpering, and she gently pulled him closer. I'm just trying to grab a case real quick. You've been standing there 10 minutes, Trent said, turning to Jeremiah. See what I mean, man? Some people think this is daycare. Jeremiah's stomach turned. He looked at the woman, exhausted, embarrassed, and now visibly shaking. She placed the case back on the shelf and started to walk off. Ma'am, Jeremiah said quickly, if you still want that case, I can ring it up for you. No rush. She hesitated, then gave a small nod. Trent scoffed and wandered to the back of the kiosk, pretending to rearrange something. Jeremiah scanned the case, bagged it carefully, and handed it to her. Thanks, she said quietly. He didn't sleep much last night. I just needed something small for my phone. No problem at all, Jeremiah said, meeting her eyes. You're doing great. She gave a tired smile and left. When Trent came back, he laughed. You're gonna learn fast, man. Mall people are the worst. Jeremiah didn't say anything, but something in him shifted. He'd expected disorganization or maybe poor sales tactics. Not cruelty. Not this. He stayed quiet the rest of the shift, watching how Trent ignored customers unless they looked like they had money. How he talked down to a teenage worker named Cassie when she asked for a break. How he sold a scratched watch as brand new to a father shopping for his son. Jeremiah had seen enough. He texted his assistant that night. "Don't alert anyone. I'm staying here the whole weekend." Then he added one more line. "Start pulling staff records for Oak Pine. I want to know who's been running this place into the ground." By Saturday morning, Jeremiah had already memorized the layout of the Oak Pine Mall kiosk. 3 display cases, 2 storage drawers, 1 broken receipt printer that Trent swore worked fine if you hit it twice. Foot traffic was heavier than Friday, and the tension among the staff was unmistakable. Cassie, the teenage worker from the day before, showed up 15 minutes early. She moved quietly, shoulders slightly hunched, avoiding eye contact with Trent as she clocked in. "You're early again," Jeremiah said, sorting out the restock from the morning shipment. Cassie gave a small shrug. "Bus gets here either now or way too late. I just wait here." "You been here long?" 3 months. "It's okay. Better than fast food, I guess." Before he could ask anything else, Trent appeared from the side corridor, chewing on something and wiping his hands on his jeans. He glanced at the inventory pile Jeremiah had just unpacked. "You put the premium phone grips on the bottom row?" "They're heavier," Jeremiah said. "Top shelf's glass. It's cracked on the left corner." Trent stared at him, then turned to Cassie. "Did you tell him to move stuff around?" "No," she said quickly. "He was just helping." Trent didn't respond. Instead, he pulled out his phone and walked a few steps away, muttering to himself. As the day unfolded, Jeremiah kept track of every interaction. Trent would disappear for long stretches, only to return with a soda or fast food bag. He gave Cassie conflicting instructions, then criticized her for not meeting his expectations. She stayed quiet, never challenged him. By mid-afternoon, a new hire named Luis showed up for his second day. He looked nervous, clutching a small notebook with scribbled notes from yesterday's training. "I was told to shadow someone today?" he asked. Trent pointed at Jeremiah. "Ride with Jacob. He seems to love giving tours." Luis looked relieved. "Cool. Sorry, I'm not great with tech stuff yet." Jeremiah nodded. "No problem. Let's take it slow." For the next hour, Jeremiah walked Luis through the register, explaining the difference between display models and box stock. Luis was eager to learn, asking questions and writing things down without hesitation. While they worked, a group of 3 teens lingered by the display. One of them, a tall girl with braids, asked to see a smartwatch. "Can I check the band size on this one?" she asked. Jeremiah was about to unlock the case when Trent stepped in. "Yeah, not right now," he said, waving her off. "We're low on those." The girl frowned. "You've got 5 in there." "Yeah, and they're not for just trying on." "You buying or playing dress up?" Her friends glanced at each other. One muttered, "Let's go," and they walked away. Luis looked confused. "We weren't out of those, right?" "No," Jeremiah said quietly. Cassie had stopped organizing the keychain rack, watching the whole thing. "Does he do that a lot?" Jeremiah asked her once Trent was out of earshot. She hesitated. "Depends who's asking." "I'm asking." She looked down. "He doesn't like kids hanging around. Says they waste time." "But if they're spending money?" "That doesn't always matter." The rest of the shift dragged. Trent gave himself 2 breaks, one of which lasted almost 40 minutes. He left Cassie alone at the register while she handled a line of customers stretching into the walkway. Luis tried to help, but Trent had never trained him on returns, and he fumbled through 2 of them before stepping back. Jeremiah finally stepped in and started ringing people up just to keep things moving. Cassie didn't complain, but her hands trembled slightly as she counted change. "You all right?" Jeremiah asked once the crowd cleared. I haven't eaten since this morning, she said. But I don't want to ask for a break again. Why not? He says if I need time off, I should work somewhere else. Jeremiah's jaw tensed, but he didn't say anything. Not yet. By 6, the kiosk was quiet for the first time that day. Trent returned, sipping from a smoothie cup and talking about how the real money's in crypto anyway. He didn't ask how the shift had gone. Didn't notice that Cassie looked pale or that Luis had given up trying to ask questions. Jeremiah waited until Cassie stepped away to grab water before walking over to Trent. Quick question, he said, keeping his voice even. Why didn't you let that girl try on the watch earlier? What girl? The one with the braids. She asked politely. You said we were low on stock. Trent shrugged. Look, I've been doing this longer than you. You start letting certain crowds hang around, they scare off the buyers. Jeremiah stared at him. Certain crowds. You know what I mean? No, I don't. Trent rolled his eyes. Come on, man. I'm not trying to get robbed over a $50 watch. Jeremiah's voice dropped. You think she was going to rob you? Based on what? Trent held up his hands. Relax. I'm just saying we watch patterns here. You'll figure it out. I already have. Jeremiah turned away before he said something he couldn't take back. He walked to the edge of the kiosk, pulled out his phone, and made a single call not to his assistant, but directly to regional HR. I need someone here. Tonight. They arrived within the hour. Trent was behind the kiosk, joking about a customer who had mispronounced a brand name when the HR rep, a woman named Kayla, walked up to him. You're Trent. Yeah. You're with inventory. No, she said. I'm with corporate. You can step out with me, please. Trent looked startled. What's this about? You'll find out in a moment. Cassie and Luis watched in stunned silence as Trent followed Kayla away from the kiosk. Jeremiah stepped behind the counter and took over the register. You're not going to tell us what's going on? Luis asked. I will, Jeremiah said. But not yet. Trent never came back. That night, Jeremiah helped Cassie close out the register himself. She looked exhausted but less tense than before. Luis stayed late to help wipe down the display cases and organize the stockroom. Once the gates were down and the lights dimmed, Jeremiah called them both over. I want to say something, he began. This weekend wasn't just to help out. I was here to see what's really going on, because I didn't trust the reports anymore. Cassie looked confused. What do you mean? Jeremiah took off his cap. I'm Jeremiah Grant, CEO of Grant Retail, and I'm sorry it took me this long to see what you've been dealing with. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Luis blinked. Wait. Seriously? Jeremiah nodded. You both deserved better. No one should be treated the way I saw you treated today. Cassie, you showed up early, worked through breaks, and handled problems you shouldn't have had to deal with. Luis, you asked all the right questions and didn't get any real support. That's over now. Cassie's voice was barely above a whisper. What about the others? We're auditing the whole district, starting with this location. Anyone who operates like Trent won't be here much longer. I promise you that. He handed each of them a small card with his direct line. We're also revamping the management pipeline, and anyone who wants to take on more responsibility will be trained properly, paid properly. Cassie looked like she didn't know whether to cry or laugh. Can I still come in Monday? If you want to, but you're not starting at the same pay rate. We're bumping you both immediately, and I want you both to meet with our new area lead next week. Luis grinned. I thought this was going to be just a weekend job. Jeremiah smiled for the first time all day. It's about to be a lot more than that. Jeremiah arrived at the Oak Pine Mall early Sunday morning, earlier than anyone else. He stood alone in the dim corridor outside the security gate, hands in his jacket pockets, eyes fixed on the kiosk's outline behind the grate. The mall's cleaning crew shuffled past with carts and mops, unaware that the man watching the small retail unit wasn't just another store manager preparing for the day. Kayla from HR had stayed late after removing Trent the night before. She'd walked Jeremiah through the preliminary misconduct file 6 informal complaints over the past year. None escalated, all dismissed by the same district manager who'd hired Trent. That same manager had submitted glowing evaluations for him, citing firm leadership and high customer control. Jeremiah had already flagged her for review. The gate rattled as the mall's central system unlocked it. He raised it slowly, then began prepping the kiosk. The silence helped him think. He rearranged a few displays and cleared the clutter from the drawer Trent had kept full of personal snacks and receipts. A half-empty bottle of cologne was wedged behind the register, left like a trophy. Jeremiah tossed it. By the time Cassie arrived, her eyes widened when she saw the changes. "You're here already?" "Wanted to make sure we started fresh." She stepped behind the counter, glancing around. "It's cleaner. I thought we'd try something different today. You ever done opening inventory solo?" She hesitated. "I've watched it done. Never got trained." He handed her the tablet. "I'll walk you through it, and we'll write it down this time, start building a real guide." As they began scanning, Jeremiah noticed her speed was cautious but precise. She counted out loud, double-checked SKU numbers, and paused only when unsure. He didn't correct her, just noted the gaps and wrote them down for training updates. Luis showed up a half-hour later, wiping his glasses on his shirt. "Sorry, bus was late again." "No worries," Jeremiah said. "We're ahead of schedule anyway." They worked through morning setup together. By 10, the mall foot traffic picked up, and a steady stream of customers began trickling in. Cassie took lead at the register. Luis floated between stocking and answering questions. Jeremiah stayed close but let them handle most of it. Around lunchtime, a woman in a sharp navy blazer approached the kiosk. She looked early 40s, clipboard in hand, and scanned the kiosk with a practiced eye. "Excuse me," she said. "I'm looking for the acting supervisor." Cassie looked up. "That'd be him, I think." Jeremiah stepped forward. "I'm Dana Roth, Regional Retail Compliance. I was asked to conduct a spot audit." Jeremiah nodded. "Happy to walk you through what we've got." She didn't recognize him. That was good. He let her inspect the cash logs, the inventory records, and the training schedules or lack thereof. She asked sharp questions, made quick notes, and never slowed down. "Why are there no written break logs for the last 2 weeks?" "We're implementing new systems as of this morning," Jeremiah said. "There weren't any before." She raised an eyebrow. "Who authorized you to implement procedural change?" "I did." She frowned. "And you are?" He pulled out his ID badge and held it up. Her eyes widened slightly. Then she closed her clipboard and nodded once. "I'll adjust my report accordingly." "Appreciate it," he said. "And I'd like you to audit the other 2 underperforming kiosks this week." Quietly. She didn't hesitate. Understood. When she left, Cassie leaned over, voice low. She looked like she could fire the whole mall. "She could," Jeremiah said. "But she's not the one I'm worried about." By mid-afternoon, a new face showed up. A tall, quiet man in his early 30s, dark button-down shirt and khakis, carrying a small duffel bag. "You Jacob?" he asked, scanning the kiosk. "I am today," Jeremiah said. "And you are?" "Kevin. District Relief. Got a call this morning. I'm supposed to cover until a permanent lead's selected." Cassie gave Jeremiah a sideways glance. He nodded slightly. "Go ahead and clock in," he said to Kevin. "We'll get you up to speed." Kevin was efficient but reserved. He didn't ask questions, didn't volunteer opinions. Jeremiah watched him closely. After 30 minutes, he pulled Kevin aside near the side gate, out of earshot. "You've worked under Trent before?" Kevin nodded. "Once. Didn't love it." "Why?" Kevin looked around, then kept his voice low. He was always riding one person, usually the youngest, always someone who couldn't push back. Didn't fix issues, just blamed people. "Why didn't you report him?" "I did. A while ago. Got told to let it go." "By who?" Kevin hesitated. "Carla, the district manager." Jeremiah's jaw locked. "You still want this assignment?" Kevin nodded. "Depends who's running it now. You've got my support. Treat the staff right, and we'll talk about making it permanent." Kevin gave a curt nod and returned to work. Minutes later, a man in his 50s approached the kiosk, wearing a faded polo and khaki shorts. He looked around, spotted Cassie, and walked up briskly. "You still got that black watch from last week? The one with the red accents?" Cassie looked up. "We might. What day did you come in?" "Wednesday. I spoke to the tall guy. He said it'd be here today." Jeremiah stepped closer. "Tall guy meaning Trent?" "Yeah, that one. He told me he'd hold it if I came back today." Cassie moved toward the drawer. "We don't really do holds, but I can check." The man's tone shifted. "He promised it. I came back like he said." Jeremiah stepped in. "Sir, I'm sorry for the confusion. Trent's no longer with the company. But if you give us a minute, we'll check inventory and find a match for you." The man stared at him. "He already took my cash. Said it had to be off the books because it wasn't in the system yet." Jeremiah's voice hardened. "How much did he take?" "50. Said I could pay cash early and pick up Sunday." Cassie froze. Luis looked stunned. Jeremiah turned to Kevin. "Pull up the drawer logs. See if there's a gap on Wednesday." Kevin pulled out the tablet and tapped quickly. "There's no entry for that day. Looks like it was marked as closed for maintenance." Jeremiah turned back to the man. "We'll get you a new watch. On the house. And I'd appreciate it if you could email our compliance team about this. I'll give you the address." The man nodded slowly. "Didn't expect a scam from a mall kiosk." "Neither did I," Jeremiah said. After the man left, Jeremiah stepped away and called Kayla. "Add theft to the file. And check for other cash, only sales logged on off-schedule days." "Already pulling data," she said. "This may go deeper than one location." By evening, the kiosk was running smoothly. Kevin had taken command of restocking and was guiding Luis through a more structured sales pitch approach, using actual product knowledge instead of vague upselling. Cassie looked more relaxed, jumping in to show Kevin how she'd rearranged the display to increase visibility on slower-moving items. Jeremiah stepped back and watched. He didn't say much, just observed. On his way out, he paused beside Cassie. "You've got a good eye for layout. When we hold interviews for lead, I want you to apply." She looked stunned. "Me? You've already been doing the job. Might as well make it official." She nodded, speechless. As he walked toward the parking deck, Jeremiah passed a kiosk 2 corridors down. Same signage, same setup. A young worker stood alone, juggling 3 customers while the manager leaned against the wall, scrolling on his phone. He kept walking, but pulled out his phone and made a note. Tomorrow he'd start there. By Tuesday morning, the temperature had dropped and the mall's skylights let in a hazy gray. Jeremiah walked through the south entrance, coffee in hand, taking the same route he had the first day. But this time, he wasn't headed to Oak Pine's main kiosk. He veered left, toward the smaller corridor that led to the Westview satellite. This kiosk had the same branding, same display cases, same product lines. But the mood was different before he even stepped in. The lights were dimmed lower than standard. The shelves had gaps, empty hooks where accessories should be. And the lone employee on duty, A short woman with a tight braid and a branded fleece jacket was juggling two customers while speaking in apologetic tones. Jeremiah waited until the line cleared, then approached. "You the only one on this morning?" She didn't look up right away. "Yeah. Manager's not in till 2, and the afternoon help called out." "You've had coverage issues long?" She finally looked up. "Too long. You corporate." He handed her a card with his name and title. "Oh, I'm not here to watch," he said. "I'm here to fix it." She gave a short nod, then motioned to a half-unpacked box behind the counter. "That delivery's been sitting here since Sunday. I haven't had time to process it. Let me do it. You stay with the customers." She blinked. "Seriously? I've got 2 hands." He rolled up his sleeves and got to work, sorting through restocking codes, matching SKUs to shelf tags, and organizing a clear rotation of older inventory to the front. Every few minutes, he glanced up to see how she handled the floor, efficient, patient, speaking with clarity. When a customer asked a technical question about a waterproof phone pouch, she didn't guess. She pulled out the product sheet from under the display and walked them through it. After the rush thinned, she leaned over. "I'm Elise, by the way. Been here 9 months. You've been doing all this solo?" "Most days, yeah. My manager's mostly remote. Shows up for payroll and inspections." "Does he help when he's here?" She hesitated. "He's more of a presence than a partner." Jeremiah kept his tone neutral. "What's his name?" "Damon. He's been here longer than anyone. Says he used to run 3 kiosks at once." "Does he ever train or support new staff?" "He says most people aren't cut out for retail. Doesn't bother showing them much. They usually quit in a week." "Has HR ever been notified?" She shook her head. "No point. He always covers himself. Sends nice emails. Cherry picks good shifts to show up on." Jeremiah nodded once, then checked the time. "He's supposed to be here in 20 minutes? If he comes." Jeremiah stayed. At exactly 2:13, Damon arrived. He strolled up in a leather jacket, sunglasses still on despite being indoors. He glanced at Elise, then at Jeremiah. "You knew?" he asked. Jeremiah didn't answer immediately. He let Damon keep talking. "We've had a lot of turnaround here," Damon continued. "Some people don't get the rhythm. You either manage the chaos or drown in it." Elise stepped aside. "This is Mr. Grant." Damon's eyebrows twitched. "Jeremiah Grant? Glad you could make it," Jeremiah said. Damon straightened his jacket. "Didn't know you were coming. I would have been on time." Jeremiah cut in. "Helped your only employee restock? Covered a gap you've known about for weeks." Damon's tone shifted. "Look, we all know retail's messy. You can't micromanage every kiosk. Some stores just have rougher patches. Elise just handled a full shift alone without a break. There's been no inventory updates since Sunday. You've got empty hooks during peak sales hours and no standard training process." Damon crossed his arms. "I've been doing this for years. We make numbers. I don't believe in babysitting. Either people step up or they wash out." Jeremiah's voice was level. "You don't lead. You disappear. And you leave cleanup to the people who've actually kept this place alive." Damon gave a short laugh. "You think you're gonna fire me over a few late starts and some turnover?" Jeremiah didn't flinch. "I'm letting you go for systemic neglect, failure to train staff, and willful disregard of employee well-being. Elise will finish this shift with me. You can collect your final paperwork from HR." Damon opened his mouth to argue, but Jeremiah raised a hand. "You've done enough damage." Damon left without another word, sunglasses back on, shoulders tight. Jeremiah turned to Elise. "Do you need a break?" She nodded. "I could use 10 minutes to eat." "Go. I'll cover." While she stepped away, Jeremiah rang up 2 customers, took mental notes on layout issues, and flagged 3 items for reorder. When Elise returned, holding a small sandwich, her shoulders looked lower, more relaxed. He spoke without turning from the display. "You're qualified to take over this kiosk, but I won't put that on your plate without proper support." "What kind of support?" "We're assigning floating staff to cover gaps. You'll get 2 days fully off per week. And we're bringing in a trainer to build a real onboarding path." She took a bite, swallowed. "No one's ever asked me what I need before. That's changing." He stayed until closing, helped shut down the register, logged the final inventory notes, and locked the gate with Elise beside him. She didn't say much, but her nod before leaving said enough. The next morning, he returned to Oak Pine, this time in a button-down and slacks. No hoodie, no cap. Kevin was assigning tasks calmly, and Cassie was reviewing new signage with Luis, who was now confidently managing a section of the counter. Jeremiah pulled Cassie aside. "You still planning to apply for lead?" "I thought about it," she said, "but I don't want to step into something that's just going to collapse again." "It won't, and I'm not asking you to do it alone. We're building a better foundation this time." She folded her arms. "What changed?" "I did," he said, "because I stopped listening to filtered reports and started listening to people who actually work." She studied him for a moment. "Then yeah, I'll apply." By the end of that week, 2 more underperforming kiosks had been audited. Damon's termination had triggered a wider investigation. Elise was promoted with a formal mentorship plan. Kevin was confirmed as interim lead with a path to permanent based on performance over the next 90 days. Cassie's interview was scheduled for Thursday. Jeremiah stood in the main office that Friday, reviewing a report on customer satisfaction ratings. Oak Pines had jumped 20% in 3 days. But what held his attention was a short handwritten note on his desk. No signature, just a folded receipt paper with 5 words. "Thanks for seeing the truth." He pinned it to the corkboard beside his father's old photo. Then he picked up the phone and dialed. "I want to schedule monthly site visits. Every location. No more distance. No more guessing." Leadership, he'd learned, wasn't about managing from above. It was about showing up when it mattered most.